Operations on the plain center-type grinder require careful attention to good machine shop procedures. The blueprint indicates the surface to be ground, the dimensions of the finished job, the tolerance allowance, and type of finish required. Finish is designated by a number or letter. In this case, number 2 means average. Correct lubrication is an important part of machine shop procedure. Most grinding machines require daily oiling of the tailstock, the pick feed pawl, and the graduated ring scale. Another vital oiling point is the sight feed on the back of the headstock. Be sure to refill the cup when it begins to get low. After the machine has been correctly oiled, press the start button. This sets in action the hydraulic system and the grinding wheel spindle lubricating pump. As the spindle bearing compartment fills with oil, the sight gauge on the spindle housing fills up too. This shows that correct spindle oil pressure has been developed. You are now ready to line up the headstock. Loosen the headstock clamp screws. Use the rack and pinion to position it for the size of the piece to be handled. The headstock should be as close to the middle of the table as possible. Clamp it to the table in this position. Examine the headstock center. If the headstock center is damaged or worn, replace it. For this purpose, you need a knockout bar. Place the bar in back of the headstock center hole. As the center has a tapered shank, 1 or 2 drives with the knockout bar will usually dislodge it. Be sure the new center is free from nicks or burrs. Wipe the tapered hole and the new center. Then drive it securely into place. Examine the tailstock center. To remove the damaged part, retract the tailstock lever and turn the hand wheel counterclockwise. This unseats the tailstock center. Drive the new center solidly into the center hole. The tailstock is held in place by 2 clamp screws. When these are loose, the tailstock can be positioned to fit work of various sizes. You are now ready to prepare the workpiece for grinding. Check both center holes. They must be free from burrs. As the small diameter is not to be ground, clamp a dog to that end of the workpiece. Be sure the dog is clamped hard. Use a tallow stick or other heavy lubricant to grease both center holes. The workpiece is now ready for the grinding machine. Place the dogged end on the headstock center, adjust the tailstock, and clamp securely. check the work for tension between centers. If it is too loose, turn the hand wheel clockwise. In a tailstock of this type, correct pressure between the tail center and the work depends on an expansion spring. Rotating the hand wheel counterclockwise retracts the tail center and loosens pressure on the work. Turning it clockwise moves the tail center forward and increases the pressure. Excessive pressure would mar the center holes and create stresses in the work which would result in considerable damage. To compensate for excessive pressure, the expansion spring retracts, holding the work snug but never tight. The work should rotate smoothly but snugly between centers. In this type of grinding, the work rotates on dead centers. To provide motive power, make sure the driver on the face of the headstock contacts the lug on the driving dog. Now, adjust for length of stroke. Turn the table traverse wheel until the grinding wheel overlaps the right end of the workpiece about ½ inch. Move the table stop dog to contact the reversing lever. Check the reversing action by hand. Traverse the table until the grinding wheel overlaps the other end of the workpiece. Set the second table stop dog. Engage the power lever to check the accuracy of reversal action. Make sure the taper adjustment dial is at 0. Turn the cross-feed hand wheel to bring the grinding wheel closer to the work. Pressing the start button a second time starts the grinding wheel. For safety, stand aside during the first few moments of rotation. Set the switch to coolant with headstock. By engaging the selector valve, headstock rotation and coolant flow begin. The flow can also be controlled by a valve in the line. Shut off the coolant while you set headstock speed. The surface speed of the workpiece must be approximately 60 feet per minute. Adjust the headstock rate control to produce this speed. Now engage the power lever and set the table traverse speed. For rough grinding, traverse the table from 1/2 to 2/3 the width of the wheel per revolution of the work. With the splash guards in place, the setup for grinding is complete. Open the coolant valve and infeed the wheel until it lightly contacts the work. This is a cleanup grind to remove machining marks and to provide a smooth surface for checking diameter of the work accurately. Without further infeeding, allow the work to pass the wheel again. This is called sparking out. Move the wheel away from the work. Stop the machine. Check for size and taper with a micrometer. On this end, the piece is 2 inches 765 thousandths. Measure the diameter at the other end. This reading is also 2 inches 765 thousandths. Therefore, no taper is present. The blueprint calls for a finish diameter of 2 inches 750 thousandths. The present diameter of the piece is 2 inches 765 thousandths. Finish diameter is 2 inches 750 thousandths, leaving 15 thousandths to be removed. Since this is a rough grind and 2 thousandths must be left for finishing, only 13 thousandths will be removed during this operation. Engage the headstock coolant lever. With wheel and work in light contact, move the ring scale on the cross-feed hand wheel to 0, thus establishing a reference point for stock removal. Then set the graduated ring for 13 thousandths of an inch in feed. Position the pick feed pawl. When the start lever is engaged, table traverse begins. At the end of each pass, the pick feed pawl moves the ratchet ring, automatically infeeding the wheel to the work. With each reversal of the table, the pick feed pawl is moved to the left and engages a notch in the ratchet ring. This movement is transmitted to the grinding wheel and represents the amount of infeed for each pass of the work. When the work is within 3 thousandths of required stock removal, the pawl climbs the guard and automatic infeed ceases. To set a positive stop, swing the pawl back about 180 degrees. Always infeed the last 3 thousandths by hand. The work is down to size when the sliding stop contacts the pawl. Allow the work to pass the wheel for sparking out. As the work reaches the end of the traverse, back off the grinding wheel. Mic the piece for size. The readings of 2 inches 752 thousandths show that the work is straight and to rough size. Accurate grinding operations require knowledge of machine procedure. Remember, oil the machine carefully, check the centers, be sure the dog and driver are in contact, use the right controls, measure the workpiece properly, feed the wheel to the work correctly. By attention to these details, you will achieve work of accurate finish and dimensions.